Welcome to Making Money with Laura Sanders, a name you can trust. With over 20 years of real estate experience and selling over 150 homes a year, Laura Sanders is the #1 RE/MAX agent in the state of Florida for 2021. Join us each week as we discuss how to make money through buying and flipping homes, to renting versus selling, and everything in between. To join the conversation, call in live. 888-994-4995, Studio A.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Making Money with Laura Sanders, and I am your host, Laura Sanders. It'd be kind of weird if I wasn't the host and I was on this show, right? And I was telling you about things, so.
Are you Laura Sanders?
I am. So tonight we're going to talk about who not to hire when it comes to real estate. I actually was meeting with a lady yesterday. Actually said she watched one of my shows. She was like telling me, oh, I watched when I researched you, I looked you up, I was watching one of your shows. And I was like, oh, okay. And she was telling me about all the bad realtors she's hired. Now, typically I would say that I do business over and over again with the same clients. However, I will say that tonight I was scrolling Facebook. I hate Facebook, but I love Facebook. Does that make sense?
Yes, you're a woman.
Oh, wow. Okay, this is going to be a rough one tonight. Okay, so, and the audience laughs. I was looking on Facebook, scrolling through, and I feel there might be a little bit of misconception on what I can do.
It depends. What are we talking about?
Well, I saw somebody that had like multi-million-dollar house listed with somebody, you know, one of their significant others. I don't think they're married, but I realized that they picked somebody else. I didn't even get an opportunity. I found that sometimes people have, like, I've had some people that went out and bought like a townhouse for $300,000 and said, oh, I didn't call you because I thought you didn't do that little price range. And I'm like, I do everything. Multi-million, I do, well, there's nothing for $50,000 anymore, but I've done $50,000.
They think you're a high-class babe.
But apparently then these people didn't think I was.
No, they were afraid to offer you a small deal.
No. I'm talking about these people had a multi-million-dollar property for sale. But I didn't get a call, and I actually do occasionally still talk to the person. Like, I try to stay in contact with my clients. You know, I think that's really important. I try my best. I want to make some changes to how I do continue to interact with people, but unfortunately, there's only 36 hours in a day, and I'm working at least 30 of them.
Do you think that people hire the last person they talk to?
That's interesting. Some people could possibly be at the very end of hiring, could say, you know what, let me just get this over with. Like, they all seem the same to me. A lot of people think realtors are used car salesmen. I do not feel that I'm like that at all. I think I'm very honest, I'm very open. Like, if you get hurt because I tell you you need to do a couple of things to your house, it's not about what you like. I'm just going off of what seems to be the current theme, like the current, you know, desires of people. So you getting upset that I've told you you need to paint your house a different color inside because pink, and I've had Pepto-Bismol pink clients. That's not about your taste. That's okay. It's okay what you like. But if I was to go to put my house on the market today, I'd have to declutter, like crazy declutter.
Like nobody lives there.
No, I'm not telling you to go bare. Like, I've had some clients, you know, people say, oh, take down the personal items. Listen, I'm not asking you to make it sterile like a hospital. People do want to know if people live there.
But let me ask you, you're a professional. Who's buying in Florida? Out-of-towners? People from New York, California?
So 2 years ago, 21, COVID, we started going back out, June of 2020. And it was January of 2021 that all of a sudden we saw like a tremendous spike. And then in 22, around April, May, the market went flat. It leveled out. So during that time, yes, we saw people from Tennessee, because everybody thought like, oh, I want to live where your governor is because your governor is letting you guys out. You're not having to wear masks in a lot of places. In 2021, want to say it was cold, so maybe it was April of 21. I went to Chicago, and I mean, you had to make a reservation to go to McDonald's. So where are the people coming from? They're coming from all over.
So does that make a difference as to what the sale of the house should look like? Does it make a difference?
Okay, so in 2021, you could sell a house with a roof leak, you know, with a tree through it.
Because there was no
There's no
merchandise,
inventory.
right.
So let me tell you what's going to happen. You're going to see that we're in an election year. And now you're going to see that somewhere along the line, interest rates are going to come down. However, you're also going to then see when that happens, because we're still low inventory, people are going to fight for it. So you're better off buying now and refinancing. I'd rather spend $8,000 in closing costs, and I'm not saying that's what your closing costs are going to be. It could be less, it could be more. It depends on the price of the house, right? It could be $3,000, because one of the things that most people don't realize when they do their closings is that some of them are prepaids. What's a prepaid? Prepaid item could be insurance. So, geez, $6,500 for the year, you got to pay it up front when you're refinancing. You're going to get back the money that's already in your escrow account. So you're getting that money back. So even though it looks like a closing cost, it's money that's going to come back to you. Just like when you refinance, they're going to want 4 months of your taxes during that. Well, you put that when you closed in your escrow account. And it's funny, like I just sent out, from all the closings that I had last year, I just sent everybody their closing statement. Why? Because they all look for it, and then they're like, I need it for taxes, for tax purposes.
Right.
That's a whole nother thing is, you know, the little things that I do for them. Like I try to make sure that I keep it easy for people, trying to make sure people are filing their homesteads. You know, I talk about it at the closing table with the big closing gift that I give. And it's like, just had a guy today that he didn't listen to me. And now he called me. Well, guess what they lost? Their portability. Then he called me, he's like, but you know, even just calling me to say, well, what are you paying for insurance? Some people, you know, end up getting forced place insurance. They don't even know it. What's forced place insurance? That's when your lender says, you might have gotten dropped, you didn't realize it. Like some people are just paying and they're like, why is my payment going up? I mean, you really got to look at it.
Do you provide all the services when you sell somebody's house to the new buyer? Like the right insurance?
So that's the buyer. So remember, but however, I will tell you, so when I have somebody selling, I get estimates on their property.
Right.
And when I get those estimates, right, a lot of times some of those agents they're not dealing with the same type, not everybody's the same. Some insurance people can write with different insurance people, and so their costs are higher. I've actually seen 2 insurance agents with the same, it was weird, like same stuff with Citizens, and they're different prices. I'm like, how does this happen? So what I'm doing is I am getting an estimate on my clients that are selling their insurance. So I know, first of all, that the buyer qualifies.
Right.
Because what happens is we get, you know, from places that aren't local, like Quicken Loans or whatever it is today, Rocket Mortgage, right? They're telling the buyer, hey, you qualify to buy, you know, X dollars, right? So when you qualify for X dollars and I say, okay, well, what did you use for insurance to the lender says, well, we use $250 a month. Well, they're like from Minnesota, and $250 a month for insurance here is like, yeah, you're not even getting a condo insurance, you know, like a a content policy, yeah. I'm like, no, we need to change that. So usually somewhere it could be 65, it depends on the house, obviously.
Right.
But if I have that information, I know the taxes, I know the insurance, and I know if there's an HOA fee or a condo fee. Give you another example, have a condo for sale. Agent says, I'm sending you an offer. And I said, okay, where are they getting their mortgage from? Well, they're doing they're not doing a conventional in this, okay? Century Village in Deerfield has a rec lease. Well, you have to understand what does that mean when you have a rec lease? How does that affect you with a mortgage? So I said, no, you got to go to a special kind of lender for that. That's a whole nother ball game. Like, this isn't going to work. So it's understanding before you spend 3 weeks and the whole deal just has to go back to the beginning or the buyer doesn't qualify. I'll tell you a really funny story, but I think we should go to commercial break. And when we come back, I want to tell you about a deal that I was ready to save. No, I'm not going to let you talk. I'm about to tell you about a deal that I was able to save, and the buyer said, nope, don't want to buy it. And I said, well, you're not going to get your money back. And here he is 6 months later begging me for his money back. And now I said, basically, we suffocated him till he was willing to give us some of that money. So, you know, you got to...
Did she say suffocate?
Suffocated him, yeah.
Smothification. I think we'll be right back.
Listen, you need to... Anyway, let's go to commercial break, and when we come back after seeing our amazing sponsors, we'll talk about
Smothification.
what a good realtor can do for you.
Excellent.
Stay tuned.
Whether you're buying, selling, refinancing, or building your dream home, you have a lot riding on your loan specialist. Max Fish, a top 1% mortgage loan officer in the nation, will give you a same-day qualifying quote. Max Fish is committed to providing his customers with mortgage services that exceed their expectations. Ensuring that you make the right choice for you and your family is his ultimate goal. Contact Max Fish today at 954-729-6933 or max.fisch@nwmcorp.net.
At JK Closing Attorneys, we do all of the same things that a title company does, but with the benefits of being a law office. We can help with residential real estate, short sales, commercial real estate, refinances, 1031 exchanges, and FIRPTA withholding.
Contact JK Closing Attorneys today at 954-332-3111. Again, that is 954-332-3111.
You have been watching Making Money with Laura. For more information, contact Laura Sanders at 954-650-0827 or visit her website at theloracell.com. And now back to the show.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to Making Money with Laura Sanders, and I am your host, Laura Sanders. We are talking about how do you know who to hire? What's a good hire? What's a bad hire?
Yeah, well, how do you, when you meet somebody and the house doesn't sell for 3 months, do you turn around and say that this was not a good hire? Or do you turn around and say
It's not always the person. It's not always.
Could
So
be
it's
the
not
market.
always the hire.
Right.
It's not always the hire. It could be the house.
It could be the house.
Let me ask you a question.
No, don't ask me.
I'm going to let you talk.
Oh, gosh. Of course, she picks this to talk
But
about.
before we do that, let's go back. I said I was going to tell you about
Yes.
a deal that I was able to save, but then the buyer was like, well, I don't want it. And I'm like, well, that's too bad. Like, you can't just change your mind. Like, I think that, first of all, your agent and, you know, in Florida, title companies aren't always attorney driven. And so,
Okay.
yeah,
I didn't know
New York, they are. So you actually have somebody that like can actually tell you. I can't even tell you. I can write the contract, but I can't interpret it. But here's the thing. So one of the things when buying a condo, you need to make sure it has flood insurance. If it doesn't have flood insurance, and it's in a, doesn't have to have it if it's not in a flood zone, but if it's in a flood zone. If it doesn't have flood insurance, then you have to do a special kind of mortgage. You can't do a conventional. But if the buyer doesn't want to do that, then you're kind of stuck, right? So in this particular instance, what I did was I called the association, spoke to the treasurer and said, you guys have no flood insurance. I found this the day before closing. Because when I asked if they had flood, they said they did, but it was actually for the clubhouse, not the building, which was separate. The clubhouse was a separate building. When I said to them, I'm like, well, I went and got an estimate from an insurance agent, brought it back to the treasurer and said, this is what it's going to cost. And you need this in order to do conventional financing with Freddie and Fannie. Okay? So he said, all right, we'll go ahead and buy it. It was like $2,400 for the year, which isn't horrible. I think there was like 27 units, something like that, which is like, it was like $100 a unit. It's not a big deal. So the buyer's lender had came up with this need the day before closing. It took me about 4 days to get it together and get it approved. And the buyer's like, well, I don't want it anymore. Well, we have something called the loan commitment time. And he passed his loan commitment period. And so at that point, like his money went hard. Now, I'm not interpreting the contract, I'm just telling you the facts, and, you know, an attorney would interpret that
His
to the
money
seller.
got hard means he ain't getting it back.
Correct. But in Florida, and this is the biggest thing that people need to understand, it's not that easy to get it. It doesn't just fall into your hands, Mr. Seller. It's a nightmare to get the money.
So where's the money go? Escrow?
Sits in escrow. There, you could go to arbitration, but typically, rather than, and I'm sorry, lawyers, but rather than to hire the lawyer that's going to eat all the money up and then there's nothing left, right? Because especially, you know, on a small $100,000 condo, like, how much are you going to put down, right? So the buyer kept sending their release, wanted their release signed. Well, the client had thrown their furniture away. This day before closing. Now, this is the lender because they should have notified us. By the way, I asked throughout the entire transaction, does the insurance meet your needs? Does the I keep asking. It's like, to me, that's the first thing the lender should be doing the first week that they're looking at this. Does it meet your needs? Now, I sent it to other lenders and they were like, I can do a mortgage this way, I can do that. This guy didn't want to do that. But once I got the flood insurance intact, now it takes 30 days for that flood insurance to become active. And at that point, we could have closed. 6 months ago, this all happened. I got it that we could do this deal now, conventional Freddie Fannie. Well, the buyer calls me 2-3 nights ago and says to me, like, all right, I'm willing to deal now. I'm like, yeah, sellers have moved out of the country. I can't get a hold of them. And his money's just sitting there. And then he says to me, well, I lived in my car for like 3 weeks. I'm like, that's on you, dude. That's not on us. We could have, if you were willing to close, we would have let you, because they were leaving, we could have let you live in the place, you know, preoccupy it while we're trying to close the deal.
Well, what's his reason not to close?
Well, that's a great question because I don't typically get to speak to the buyers.
Right.
So I was calling the realtor and she wasn't returning a lot of my calls. And I can't call the buyer. The buyer's the one now calling me because I'm sure the realtor was like wiping her hands of it and saying like, I'm not going to, you know what I mean, get involved in this anymore. That's on you to get your money back. Like, I've done all I can do. And I've tried to get his money back, but they're kind of gone. But the thing is that we found a solution to the problem because every issue has a solution. It's just a matter of how you look at things. And that's the biggest problem that we're having is that a lot of agents don't have that experience to try to figure out, well, what can I do? You know, A plus B equals, and it's like, and some people are like, I don't know. I mean, for me, it's like almost like in my sleep, like this is like if you get stuck at a roadblock, I kind of know which way to go down the yellow brick road.
What are some of the essence, the elements you should look for when you're hiring an agent and you're the seller?
So I found that a lot of sellers want to hire people they either know or like. I don't think that's important.
In New York, I would agree, but in Florida, I don't think so. I think
Why is it different there than here?
because New York, you like people. In Florida, it looks like nobody
likes anybody in New York. What are you talking
Yeah.
about?
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
No,
I mean, come on.
everybody in New York wanted to make a deal. So that's called likable inference. In Florida, everybody's out to get their own, and it's unlikable inference. It's
Well,
like,
Let me tell you the difference between New York and Florida when it comes to real estate. In Florida, as I told you, title companies are not attorney driven. The realtors write the contracts.
right?
Which means that there's no feeling bad when you've spent somebody's Saturday night writing a contract and you changed your mind 3 hours later after you rushed them home to go write the offer. It's sitting in your inbox to sign it because we don't fax anymore. We send everything electronically, right? And it's sitting there waiting for you to sign it. And then you're like, hey, I ran home. I didn't go out to dinner with my family to get you this contract. And they're not signing it because now they're having second thoughts.
Well, they have 3 days to rescind the contract anyway, don't they?
No, they have the time during their inspection period. And you don't even have to have an inspection. But in New York, you want to write an offer, you got to go to the lawyer, call the lawyer up and say, write an offer. You're not going to engage a lawyer
Unless you're serious.
unless you're serious.
That's why New York
but
is
we're
crazy.
not serious.
That's
See,
my point. In New York, you make deals. In Florida, you think deals.
listen, in North Carolina, they take like $500 and they say, listen, if you don't buy this house, your $500 goes to the seller as good faith.
I know,
Could be $1,000.
It's the guy in Brooklyn that I talked about that. He told me, you put your money here, it goes away.
Right.
But
So-
that's a deal maker. Here, you don't even know until the day after you close whether or not you really close. And this thing about picking the right salesperson, you want somebody with experience. You want somebody to show you the ropes, yes?
Right. And you want, to me, it's like this. There's like 10 things that go on in a deal, probably more. You just want to do the one thing, which is hire me, and let the other 9 be handled by me. The thing is what you do matters. And it's not about whether or not you like me. I guarantee if you didn't like me the day you met me at the listing appointment, by the time you're done, you're going to like me, because you know what? Everybody likes money.
Well, that's why you're selling the house. You ain't selling it because I like you. You're selling it because you want the money at the end of the rainbow.
And if I tell you to reduce your price, which I don't typically do,
You see, I'm liking you already.
is
That's what's going to happen.
because there's a reason.
Of course, you want to sell it.
Right.
Price right.
Correct.
People always think that what they have
I
is
don't mind
worth
going
more
a little
money.
high, but if nobody's coming, it's not the realtor. Trust me, I could
It's
do
the
a video
house.
of your house. I'll get 1,000 views. You're telling me that out of 1,000 views, not one person's going to come to your house,
No, they come.
or they're going to not recommend or share or send it to somebody else? Of course they're
No,
going
they
to.
do, but it doesn't mean they're going to make an offer, or
But
doesn't
when
mean they're going to
nobody
match.
comes at all,
Right?
I mean, it's very rare that I get somebody to say like, oh, I was appalled when I went to that house, but I've gotten that a couple of times. I have had recent feedback where somebody said the pictures were so good that when we got to the house, we were very upset and disappointed. Like, you can't be mad at me because I made it look good. Like, you can't be mad.
Well, that's called doing it too well,
Yeah.
being too good.
But if I got you in the door,
It's better to be
and
in
I
the
ask
door.
very specific questions. But I have to say, I can't believe that we have run out of time. I feel like this is the fastest show ever, and all I did was talk by myself.
Oh, it's a quick minute.
Yeah. So
a quick
if you
minute.
really want to know who to hire, you should call me, Laura Sanders, Remax Direct, 954-650-0827. I am the realtor for everyone. I promise that.
That's right. Have an honest conversation
That's right, by myself.
by yourself.
By myself. So everybody make it a great night. Thank you for tuning in to Making Money with Laura Sanders, and I look forward for you guys to tune in next week.
Thank you for tuning in for Making Money with Laura Sanders, a name you can trust. To join the conversation, call us at the studio, 888-994-4995 Studio A, or contact Laura directly at 954-650-0827. Laura Sanders, a name you can trust.